I am so excited to have this guy on today. I don't know. I'm not going to be dramatic, but I feel like he is a big part. He's absolutely a big part of the reason why the Republicans won Pennsylvania in this election. And I'm going to say he's a big part of why we won overall, not just Pennsylvania, but took the whole damn thing. Welcome. We'll call him the daddy of door knocking. Cliff Maloney. Hello.
I haven't heard that one before, Chrissy, but thanks for having me.
I like the daddy of door knocking. I imagine you in like a leather suit doing that. No, the work you've done is so commendable. I've just been reading up about you. What you've done, you founded this organization called the Pennsylvania Chase, which helped to basically get Trump, Pennsylvania, and of course the White House. I want you to go into your origin story a little bit. Have you always been somebody who was into politics? How did you get from, where you were to basically helping Pennsylvania bring in, what was it, 34.5% of the mail-in vote, which is no small feat.
You're stealing my thunder. Yes.
Okay.
The basics of this, I went to school out in Pennsylvania to be a math teacher way back in the day, and just kind of always was interested in politics. I worked for Ron Paul back when he was in Congress. So I interned for him, and that was kind of my experience or my interest to jump in. Taught for a little while and then just kind of got the bug and jumped into politics. 2016 was an eye-opener for me. So we were helping out Rand Paul's Senate campaign, and he was running for re-election in Kentucky. And I realized that Republicans had all these volunteers, which is great, but the Democrats had volunteers and these paid ground game, staff, all these door knockers. And I just kind of was like, I wonder how impactful that is, right? I wonder why we aren't doing that. And so after 2016, I pretty much spent the last three big cycles, 18, 20, and 22, deploying paid ground operations for campaigns across the U.S. We've elected over 300 Republicans doing this. I do spend a lot of time at the state level. I think the left understands this, building a bench, right? Trying to build a farm team or a minor leagues of talent, and you can have so much impact. But what changed was in 2022, if you look at the Fetterman and Oz race, it really hurt us down ballot in Pennsylvania because Fetterman was spending, $8 to $10 million chasing ballots because of all the new rules. Let me take one step back. In Pennsylvania, there's now 50 days of voting. Right?
Why is there so many days of voting? Why do we need 2 months to vote?
Yeah, it's wild, right? I'm not here to advocate for it. I'm not the spokesman to say that this voting calendar is correct. But the problem is they changed the rules during COVID. And so we had the 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023 elections where Republicans just kind of said, well, we only want to vote on election day. And that'd be like me and you doing a sales competition, Chrissy. And I say, hey, you get 1 day, I get 50 days to make sales. Good luck.
And you just can't do it. And I would love it if we all went back to just voting and counting on the same day. I think most of us would. We were able to do that for many years. But yeah, COVID very much took advantage of that. And yeah, I know a lot of people were voting early this election cycle. And I did too. I kept hearing Trump saying vote early, vote early. I'm like, maybe there's something to it. Maybe some shenanigans are going to pop off on election day. Who knows? But I felt the urge. I was like, okay, let me vote early this year. And I'm in New York, which it was going to be blue no matter what. But he ended up taking a sizable chunk out of New York and more so New Jersey, which is really exciting.
Right. So if you look at the math, pretty much what's happened is Republicans in Pennsylvania, the statewide candidates, they average about 20% when you look at the mail-in vote. So going into the election day, it's typically 20% for the Republican and 80% for the Democrat.
Why is it so much more for them? They just have more people on the ground?
Well, there's a couple variables. Number one, yes, they run paid ground games to chase these requests. So in PA, you have to request it. It's not like everybody gets a ballot, right? You have to submit a request. They're sent out 50 days before the election. So in other states, everybody gets them. So Democrats go out to these voters that are Democrats, but they're not likely to vote. And for 4
Who
years
is not
now,
likely to vote? Like people that are 600 pounds? Like who?
so the way we look at it, we call them low propensity voters. Okay. So
Okay.
what you do is you look at the last 4 elections, general elections, and you rate them based on how many of those have they voted in, right? So either you voted in 4 of 4, 3 of 4, all the way down to 0. And so the 0, 1, and 2 of 4s, so people have only voted in 2 or less of the last 4 elections. Those are the people you target for these mail-in ballot request forms because they don't show up on election day, but they're registered with your party, right? They're going to support your candidate, but they don't vote. They're not.
Why don't they
reliable.
vote?
I mean, people have tons of reasons, but it's very, very interesting. I mean, there's about 1 million of these people in each party that are registered, and they're just not likely to vote. They're not consistent voters. And so the Democrats understood this, and they started spending money to target them. And we as Republicans were like, no, just vote on election day.
Well, we got this. It's like, no, we don't.
So back to Fetterman and Oz, what happened was in 22, I realized that like the party wasn't adapting to do this ballot chasing. And so we've always done door knocking. That's something we do. And so I was encouraged by members of Trump's team. I was encouraged by Charlie Kirk at Turning Point, got in touch and really started coordinating with people like Scott Presler. And so we said, okay, Presler with early vote action and Charlie with Turning Point action, they're really owning the registration piece. We're going to come in and we're going to own the actual chase piece. And so we launched this PA Chase program. It was very simple. We're going to hire 120 full-time ballot chasers. We're going to knock 500,000 doors. And the objective, which you took away my big.
All right, forget what I said. What was the reaction?
So we needed 33%. That's what we predicted. You see it there at the bottom. That's what we need. And we came in at 34.5%. So it was
God,
improvement from where we were. But yeah, it was so exciting. We knocked 510,000 doors when all was said and done. I still don't have my voice back. It's been a wild 2 weeks.
Wow. How did you know that you were going to hit 34.5%? Did you have any clue? And what did you have to do to get to that number? It was just simply getting to the 500,000 doors.
Right, so those 500,000 doors are all targeted, right? So we literally have an app on the phone, and each of our door knockers, they get assigned, and it's almost like a GPS. You pull it up, and it tells you who's at the house, who you're targeting. They have a ballot sitting there. So let me say this because a lot of people don't understand. They have a ballot sitting on their table. We have the data. When somebody sends their ballot back, they're off our list.
Right.
So we actually know every day who has sent their ballot back based on the county data that's reported. So when you go to the house, that's the conversation is, Bob, you've got a ballot sitting there. Can we get you to fill it out for Trump and all the Republicans? Can you commit to sending it in today?
Wow.
And you say, Bob, if you don't send it in, I'm going to be back in a week. And you do.
What if Bob is a hoarder and the ballot is lost? It's under, various trinkets and rubbish. Like, what do you do? Do you help him go in and help him find it?
The stories that we have heard or have seen have been pretty wild when you knock that many doors. But no, what you do is you encourage them to go to the county and try to get it replaced, that type of thing. Because Pennsylvania is weird. They don't have early voting, but they have mail-in votes and they have election day votes. A lot of states have early in person.
Yeah, that's what I have.
What we have is you literally have to go to your county and say, hey, I want a mail-in ballot right now. They call it on demand, which it's so stupid. It should just be called early voting.
Yeah.
But we really utilize that. But you asked me how I knew the 33, and obviously we got to 34.5. Pretty much we modeled it out. And if Trump was getting 20% and almost won, 25 to 28% this year, we think he would have had a shot. 30% we think he would have won narrowly, but 33% was a decisive victory where we thought, okay, we win by at least like 2 points, which we did. We won by 2 points, a couple 100,000 votes. And I always tell people you have to win by more than the amount of provisional ballots. That's extremely important. And I think,
how do you figure out how many provisional ballots there are?
You don't know, but right now there was 106,000 as we look at the data for Pennsylvania. And we won by over 100. Yeah, I mean, we won by more than that margin, which the reason I say this is look at what they were trying to do to Dave McCormick, right? McCormick only won by roughly 39,000 votes. Well, if there's 106,000, these Democrat lawyers are fanatics. And so they will take every single blue county to court to try to get the judges to get those votes to count. I mean, they're fighters. I give them some credit for that. They will not concede an election.
Wow. Okay, so you knock on Bob's door. You go, all right, if you don't turn in your vote, I'll be here in a week. Does then the same person go back in a week to develop like a relationship with these guys? And
Yep,
how many houses are they assigned? Is each person assigned?
So a daily walk book. So they have their morning meeting. Let me break this down a little better. There's 10 Airbnbs throughout Pennsylvania that we had for the whole program. So each Airbnb has somewhere between 10 and 20 people in it, depending on the size or the target. And so what they do is they have their morning meeting at 9:30, and they get assigned their walk book for the day. Typically, a walk book is somewhere between 80 to 120 doors.
Wow.
Yeah, and so they knock their first door by 10. They take an hour for lunch, and then they finish their walk book by 7 p.m. And that's their full day. And it's a grind. Look, I'm not here to tell you it's easy, right? I get out there and knock with the team all the time. It's tough work.
But you get your steps in. I'm sure a lot of these people are losing weight during this month that they're doing this.
It depends. There's a lot of pizza and sandwiches during the day, but yes. But I just tell people like it's the left has done this for years. The reason the right has struggled with it, and I might get in trouble, Chrissie, for saying this on your show, but the consultant class of the GOP, they'd rather take, $10 million, work with somebody that edits a video, and they cut an ad, they get their 15% commission on the 10 million. And that's the only person they have to work with. To run a program like this, I mean, we had 1,100 people apply, right? We had to interview about 700 people. From that, we probably sent offers to like 400.
Wow.
We got 180 to 190 people to lock in. 20 to 30 of them don't show up. 20 to 30 of them only last 24 hours. And then the rest kind of dwindle down to that 120. But we've done so many programs. We've knocked 8 million doors since 2018 when we started doing this. So when you do these programs at different states, you can count for the attrition, where a lot of Republicans are like, I don't really want to have to manage Airbnbs, and I don't want to have to dish out gas cards and do all these interviews. And it's like, we can't use that as an excuse anymore. We just have to do the work.
So what kind of a person do you end up hiring to do this? Is anyone so passionate about like closing the gap that they leave their regular job to do this for a month or so?
Yeah, typically homeless meth heads. That's a joke. I'm sure
they need the fresh air.
I'm sure my enemies will clip that and use it against me. No, honestly, the number one thing that is our secret weapon is ideology. And lawyers always tell me not to say this, but they can go pound sand. We hire based on a very, very stringent ideological alignment. And the reason for that is not because we're insane. The reason is because we just know that if you're there because you believe in the cause rather than just to try to make, a buck, it's a completely different experience. You can live in community in these Airbnbs. You're watching the news at night, or you're watching podcasts, or you're catching up, or you're drinking a beer, you're playing cards. And it's more of a community when everybody is there because, you want to stop the uniparty and you really believe in that. So that's the first thing, is ideology is a must for us. Number two, like let's break down where they come from. Sometimes you have people fresh out of college. Sometimes you have people taking a gap year. A lot of times we find people who, they went to school for X, Y, or Z. They're working a job, making okay money, but they get interested in politics and they want to kind of jump into the game. And I tell a lot of people out there that if you come to a deployment with us, let's say it's 60, 90, or 120 days. I mean, we have people that have done deployments with us for 8 years now.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy, but some people really enjoy the road life and they enjoy it. They get to travel around the country. They get to see and talk to different types of people. But the real value is if you do one of these deployments, let's say for 60 days, there's tons of jobs opening up right now in the admin, right? There are tons of positions for these people who got elected. They're now trying to fill their office. There are all these organizations looking for policy or research or analysts. We now have this huge bank of people because we hire about 1,000 door knockers a year. And so then we put them into these positions once they prove to us, hey, they got up on time for work. They didn't have a neck beard. They looked presentable, and they were able to go out and do the task that they were assigned to. And so it's almost a feeder system for us. We don't advertise it that way, but the word of mouth and referrals of people who, hey, I did a deployment with those guys last year. I've got this great job now. You should get involved with them. That's one of the big things that we try to do with these deployments.
I wish that you were a woman so I could compliment you on your nice knockers. It would have been
That's a good one. My business partner's going to love that one. And let me give a little more background because, this PHAs thing, we kind of fell into it. I don't want to say we reacted, but it was like nobody was really doing it. And I give Turning Point and Early Vote Action so much credit because, Charlie owned Arizona and Wisconsin, delivered 2 wins there.
Wow.
Presler was in all these states registering people. There were different groups up in Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia. But I think it was kind of cool. We were all singing from the same song sheet. But for us, so our group is technically called Citizens Alliance, and this is the program that we launched, the Pennsylvania Chase. But it's so funny because I tell everybody that's kind of an operative or strategist in the political world, there's nothing cooler than going back to your home state, running a program to fix the one problem that kept Trump out of the White House in 2020, which was mail-in voting.
Wow.
And so to be able to go back home, my mom jokes, she's like, Jesus, I've seen you more in the last 2 months than I have in the last 20 years.
I did this to see you more, Mom. That's all. That's the reason.
Right. So it was just cool. I mean, I'm not going to get emotional about it, but going back to your home state, and then Georgia and North Carolina were called when PA was up. And so we actually were the ones that got him to 270.
Wow.
It was just pretty awesome.
No, it is awesome. And you should get emotional. It is a big deal. I'll never forget the way I felt, and many of us felt in 2020. We were just we seemed so I don't know, disillusioned, disconnected. It was we were like, Trump is so popular. It seems like everybody around us wants him to win. He has the better plan. He did such a great job after, his first term. And then we were like, how the fuck did we lose this? And then, everyone's talking about fortification, which we all know what that means on YouTube. And I guess, was that a concern? Or you just were singly focused on getting these ballots to be mailed in, and you were like, that's what we have control over. That's what we're going to focus on. And you did a great job.
Well, I didn't agree to do this until I kind of had a couple checks, let's say a couple things ticked off my list. One was I needed Trump to have buy-in on mail-in, right? If you do this whole program and then 3 weeks before ballots go out, Trump's like, you only vote on election day. What are we doing, right? And so Charlie actually was able to get Trump to really put out some strong stuff, like you said, about voting early. And that was number one. Number two was, is it all for nothing? And they're going to, bind some ballots in the middle of the night. I'm a pretty big skeptic, right? I'm an honest broker, and then I like to look into things and understand what exactly happened. So I really, really dug in. And the RNC under Whatley and Trump, I give them a lot of credit. The lawyers, it was very different from 2020. They were proactively suing counties. They weren't waiting until the day after the election.
Wow.
Right. And so we had some big wins in Bucks County and some of these other counties because they were proactive. So I wanted all those pieces in place. But yeah, our focus was that we need to chase them. Now, the nice thing, and if you look at the numbers, okay, we actually increased the amount of GOP raw votes by mail compared to 2020. Even though everybody said, oh, you're coming out of COVID, COVID was used as this fear to get, both Democrats and Republicans, but especially Democrats, to vote by mail. So we actually increased it from where we were in 2020, even though we're out of COVID, because, we had a real effort. Democrats, this is wild. Kamala Harris got 700,000 less mail-in votes than Joe Biden, just in Pennsylvania.
That's so much.
Well,
did they just, and that's why I'm so shocked. I'm almost I can't enjoy the win as much as I should, because I'm like, why didn't they do the exact same thing they did in 2020? Since it seemed to whatever it was worked so well.
I'm telling you, all these people that are now vindicated because of the 2012, 2016, 2020, like the Democrat, that chart, 2024. I mean, it really is pretty wild. But what I think happened is COVID was used as fear in a way that we cannot comprehend because we're not Democrats.
Right.
The Democrats, I don't think they realized how much their voters were buying their BS and their fear. And so a lot of the Democrats, they were able to be their voters were so afraid that they had millions of people. Joe Biden got 2 million mail-in votes in Pennsylvania compared to Kamala Harris's 1.3. I mean, that is just wild, right? And if you look at the chart, look, that is the secret from 2020, that if it was a legitimate election, that's a big if. That is why, in my mind, is because they were able to scare the hell out of all their voters to make them scared to death. And they sent all these requests out, and they were able to get so many people ballots that, once again, Chrissy, are those people unlikely to vote, but they're Democrat. They all got ballots now. And then Democrats did the work to go chase it. 2024, they were expecting the same number.
Wow.
I mean, that's why they got blown out, because they were expecting Biden's 2020 numbers for mail-in, and it ended up being, Clinton level, right?
Wow.
And they just were not prepared for that.
Wow. So just part of it, they didn't chase the ballots. They figured we'll coast off of our 2020 win, and they didn't realize how unenthusiastic people really were towards Kamala.
Yeah, and I'll share with you. I mean, we had a lot of interesting things you learned. See, when you're on the ground, we're not looking at polls, right? We're looking at actual feedback day to day. We get a daily update. We have a tracker. We have different things that we can see, because everybody we talk to, we're recording information, right? Like, think of it as an on-the-ground poll, if you will. And what's wild was there were two major things that surprised me. Number one was black dudes. Just never seen anything like this before. 2016, 2020, we weren't chasing ballots, but we were out knocking in certain areas. They hate Kamala Harris. I don't know how.
Of course, because they're sexist and racist. That's what I'm told.
I almost didn't believe it. And then, like, I was out in Philadelphia and Bucks County and Delco, like, knocking these doors. And it's like, yeah, these black guys, like, I'm not saying that they're all in for Trump and, like, they're super energetic. There are some of them that are, but, like, the disdain for Harris, and just, people say it's the economy, stupid. I don't know what's going on, but black dudes, like, that is the issue, right? For a lot of, and by the way, these are black men that are Republican or independent or declined to state. I'm not talking about Democrats, right? But those same people 4 and 8 years ago were not in that mindset, right? They weren't all in for Biden, but I think they were just kind of like, all right, they've had 4 years of Biden, right? They had 4 years of Trump. They're like, fuck this. Oh, she's my French. They're like, screw this. And
it was close enough that they remember the difference.
Right. And so I think that was number one. Number two was young people. So Trump won 18 to 29-year-olds in Pennsylvania. It's the first time Republicans done it in decades.
Wow.
And I think that was a big one. One of the other things that was kind of crazy was the Amish. I give Presler a lot of credit because he was targeting these people early, and there's tens of thousands of them. And how
many pies did he have to buy? How did he get to the Amish? How did he go find them?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, because if you think it's easy to find their information, they're literally their purpose in life is to avoid government, right? So, like,
yeah, they're professionally off the grid.
They're the toughest people to track down. So yeah, it's very difficult, but Scott went out and registered them. We went out and chased them to get them to request it. But the best part is, one, they don't trust voting machines. They don't want to use the technology. And two, they don't want to travel. I mean, they have a horse and buggy to go to their polling place. Don't worry. We'll send the ballot to you. Mm-hmm. And that really, when we get the final data December 23rd, I'm excited to look at that and to really dive in and see the increase there.
That makes sense. Yeah, if they don't trust the machines, which is understandable, and they don't have to. They don't have to, like, feed their horse extra carrots to go to the polling place. They can just stay put. That's very cool, though. The Amish, they fascinate me. Hold on, Matthew Hammond. What's up, Matthew? How do we get rid of establishment consultants?
Let me answer that. It is slowly but surely happening. I tell a lot of people that when you look at some of these consultants and the failure to transition, because look, they all just want to do TV ads, right? And look, you have to do TV. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, you're an idiot. You have to compete on television if your opponent is spending money there. But it's a resource allocation problem with these consultants because they all have relationships, right? They all have buddies and their buddies want to kick back and they're throwing them business and this and that. It's just rare to find consultants that really are focused on winning, or at least being able to move money that might not make them money, but into an area where they can win. And so I think the only way you get rid of them, Matthew, is you continue to showcase what you do to the donor class and to activists and to the elected officials. I had to go out and raise $3 million, right? This was not something where like the GOP gave the money, right? They've got to raise money for their own budget. So I had to literally spend 300 days on the road before the program started to raise $3 million from just patriots across the country, individuals. And so now I have a case study though, right? So I'm going to take that case study of Pennsylvania. Charlie and I are sitting down, Scott Presler and I are talking, and we're going to kind of figure out how we pitch some of the donor class on, instead of having their money go into these huge super PACs, how do we kind of move a lot of that into areas where we can chase, register, and really do a paid ground operation? That's how I think you beat them out. I don't think it's like, you get rid of them because you take over the party. Yeah, you get rid of them because you get the donor class to stop funding them, cut off their fuel.
Just do a better job. Interesting. So who did you get the donations from, or how did you know how to go about that?
Well, if anybody out there just wants to give me $3 million, let me know.
Just get it over with. Yeah.
I will get off the road immediately for 2025. No, it's tough. I mean, that's the hardest part, is, and people ask me all the time, like, well, how do you learn how? I'm like, you just got to kind of, you put a pitch deck together of what you're doing with the PHAs. You do cold outreach to these people. You ask them for a meeting, you fly to them, you sit down and you ask for, $50,000 or $100,000. Like, these are significant donors. I'll share with you on your show.
Wow.
I didn't share this publicly before the election, but what I was doing was actually our ballot chasers will all wear red sneakers for the PHAs. So we have PHA shirts and then red sneakers. And what I would do is, and these are like $8 sneakers. Don't ask me where they're made. I'll get in trouble. But I just bulk ordered like $8 red sneakers. They're actually pretty comfortable, but they're like no brand. And what I did was I sent 100 pairs of these sneakers to donors back in the spring who I don't know. And I just sent them, and I had a little video that was a custom video in the package. So the donor would open it up. There'd be 2 red sneakers. And then they'd open this video. It just said the PHAs. They'd open the flap. It's called Video in a Box. Great company. You open it up and it's me. It's like, hello, Chrissie, Cliff Maloney here. Hey, listen, I'm trying to knock 500,000 doors. Well, I'm hiring 120 people. This is our budget. I'd love to come meet with you. I'm going to give you 2 options. 1, put these shoes on and join me on September 1 in Pennsylvania. Or 2, I'll come to you, pick up the shoes, and you can sponsor our ballot chaser.
That's cool.
And that was a big reason why we were able to raise the money. Just kind of getting to these donors, and, they a lot of responses from that.
How did you know what shoe size they were?
You don't. That's the best part. Everybody asked me that. They're like, dude, you sent like a 75-year-old woman who's 5 feet tall, a size 14. I'm like, that's not the point.
That's for her boyfriend, okay? That's for one of the black men that's voting for Trump this year.
I mean, look, you got to get creative, but I have learned in this political world, there's a big club, and we ain't in it. Is what I like to tell a lot of the activists. It's like you got to force your way in. Where there's money, there's power, right? Where there's power, there's money. And it's like, if you're doing something that's good, that's great. But the idea of doing something versus funding it, there's a lot of great folks who have good ideas. And I tell people, like, listen, you can strategize all day, but if you can't afford to keep the lights on, like, you're not going to change the world. That is a Morton Blackwell quote that he always says. He's a conservative leader. And he says, if you can't keep the lights on, you can't change the world. And so I don't like fundraising, right? I'm not like one of those people that's like, oh, I mean, I'd rather wear a T-shirt, my Phillies hat, go to an Eagles game and just drink a beer. But there comes a time where it's like, all right, if you want to do these things, if you want to hire 120 people, you can't just say, oh, well, the GOP wouldn't fund it. Okay. Because
Yeah.
that's what we've done for years, right? We've just complained. We pitched and moaned. It's like, no, go out and raise it. Do it.
Wow. That's really cool. I'm really impressed. Russell Hall, thank you for the super chat. The government went after Amos Miller, an Amish farmer, in a big way, trying to shut him down and cripple his business. That was likely their motivation. Oh, was this the raw milk guy?
Amos Miller was on all of our literature with the Amish. So we had specific Amish lit that we would use. These are the door hangers, if you will, that you go to the door with.
Something bigger to put over the barn, maybe.
But Amos Miller is, Russell, you're spot on. Yes, Amos is literally like one of the driving, the motivation, if you will, for them to say, okay, enough's enough. They're coming after one of our own. We need to play defense and push back. So, that was the raw milk. Just terrible. Government overreach.
Wow.
I was mad that we couldn't put peanut on our literature. It happened a little too late. We'd already printed everything, but
Squirrel Gate should have happened a month sooner, and then everyone could have taken advantage. No, that was really horrible.
Right.
Wow. Interesting. So he made inroads with Black men, the Amish. Any other groups that you were surprised by?
So young people as well, and then just Hispanics across the board, both men and women. Anybody that was in that category. Once again, it's not that they're running through the streets to vote for Trump, but it was just a different reaction. And I think it all goes back to the economy and having 4 years of Biden Harris and 4 years of Trump.
Yep.
And I also want to say this, and this is where the Republicans are like, dude, just do your victory lap and shut up.
Don't shut up.
We barely won, right? Like, this isn't me fear mongering. Like, everyone can say it was a resounding win. It was a nice win, but like, we won Pennsylvania by 2 percentage points, which is a huge win, but we only won by 2 percentage points.
How many votes is that?
Just under 200,000.
That's not a lot.
Right. We're talking 7 million people that voted. Like this is these. It's too close. So I tell people, like, the Democrats, even when they lose, they're smarter than us, right? Like, Josh Shapiro will have people, the governor of Pennsylvania will have people out chasing mail-in ballot requests on January 1 of 2025, right? Like, people are like, I'm like, there's 3 Supreme Court races this year, this upcoming year. There's school board races, municipality races, county races. Pennsylvania doesn't have an off year.
Wow.
And so I'm going to make an announcement soon about kind of what we're doing with the PHAs. But I just tell everybody, like, what we can't do is take a year off, and the Democrats are just like, well, and we're like, well, we don't care about this. We'll wait until.
Plus, now they're pissed, so they're definitely going to be on point.
Right. So I just think that my goal moving forward is what I call permanent infrastructure, which is what the Democrats have had for 20 years. With the unions and a lot of just these kind of like continuous battles that they fight 365 days a year, whereas we show up every 4 years for like 2 months. We got to get out of that mindset. And so that's people say, what's next? It's like, well, that's what's next. We're going to keep the PHAs going. We're going to figure out exactly how we're going to measure what we're doing in 25 for 26. But if the Democrats are doing it, we need to be matching. And that's been my answer to everyone.
That's really smart. Love you guys. Thank you for the chats. Thank you for the comments. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Bye. All right. Love you guys. God, I don't even want to leave. This candle smells so good. I don't want to leave. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye. Love you all. Join the Discord. Feet. Love you all. Wow. You guys are awesome. Come and get it. Bye, guys. Bye. Now I'm really leaving. Love you. Bye.